Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking a look at a real puzzle in the reef-keeping world, the Mandarinfish dilemma. These guys are literally the holy grail of the marine aquarium hobby, right? But they carry this really dark cloud. So let's unpack the mystery of exactly what goes wrong and, much more importantly, how we can actually get it right.
Okay, let's dive into this. Every aquarist knows the dream, right? You walk into your local fish store, you spot this vibrant, insanely patterned fish, and you instantly imagine it as this stunning, easy showpiece just happily swimming around your living room reef. But the reality is a whole lot harsher. These fish are notoriously difficult to keep alive long-term. So many eager hobbyists bring them home thinking, hey, standard care is fine, only to watch them slowly fade away. The gap between that initial excitement and the ultimate reality is massive. And to close that gap, we really have to look past the usual suspects of aquarium fish mortality.
So when a fish struggles in a home tank, our minds usually jump right to the common culprits. Like, is the water chemistry off? Are the nitrates spiking? Or maybe there's some bully in the tank just relentlessly picking on the new guy. Well, the truth here is actually a hidden killer. It is not aggression, it's not bad water quality, it is literal starvation. And wow, this is a profound realization. You could have absolutely pristine water, perfectly balanced parameters, the most peaceful tank mates imaginable. And a mandarinfish can, and honestly still will, just simply starve to death. The root of the problem isn't what we usually expect, which means all our standard troubleshooting tricks, they just won't work here.
Okay, so if they're starving, what exactly are they missing? The answer is copepods. These are tiny, almost microscopic crustaceans that live naturally in the reef ecosystem. You see, mandarinfish are incredibly specialized predators. They don't just eat once or twice a day when you drop some flakes in. Their biology is hardwired to make them basically the full-time, non-stop Roombas of the reef. They spend their entire day meticulously scanning the rocks, picking off these tiny crustaceans one by one. Out in the wild, the ocean provides this endless, all-you-can-eat buffet, which lets the mandarinfish do exactly what it's built to do: graze continuously.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where the huge disconnect happens. The wild reef is this infinite grazing-friendly food web. It's teeming with microscopic life, copepods breeding and multiplying non-stop, easily keeping pace with a hungry dragonet. But your home aquarium, that glass box, it is an entirely different story. A freshly set up tank is basically sterile by comparison. That complex, self-sustaining food web does not automatically, magically appear just because you mixed up some salt water and threw in a few rocks. When you drop a mandarinfish into a standard aquarium, you are taking a continuous grazer and putting it into an environment where its primary and honestly often its only food source is completely missing.
So, let's break down the specific hurdles that make this feeding problem so incredibly tough. First up, obviously, is that highly specialized diet we just talked about. Second, we've got to talk about collection stress. A lot of these guys are wild-caught. The sheer stress of collection and shipping makes trying to transition them over to frozen foods or pellets super slow, super inconsistent, and sometimes literally impossible. Third thing is competition, and it matters immensely. If you have tank mates, like certain wrasses for example, that hunt the same microfauna, or just fish that aggressively gulp down alternative foods, they're going to totally outcompete the slow, methodical mandarinfish. And finally, the most insidious hurdle of them all, the deceptive delayed decline.
There is a really devastating fact we have to face here. Mandarinfish can appear perfectly fine at first and then completely crash months later. Look, because these fish aren't exactly zooming around the tank like other fast-swimming species, they might look perfectly content just hovering over a rock for the first few weeks. You might pat yourself on the back and think, hey, I beat the odds. But actually, if your tank isn't maintaining a steady, renewable supply of the right prey, that fish is slowly losing its body mass, day by single day. It's basically a slow-motion tragedy. The decline takes months, which makes it incredibly hard for a casual observer to even notice until the fish is dangerously emaciated. And by then, it's almost always too late to reverse the damage.
So how in the world do we stop this from happening? Well, it requires a total paradigm shift. You really need to shift your mindset right now. Feeding a mandarinfish is about managing an ongoing living ecosystem. It is not a one-time purchase of a bottle of Dragonet food from the local pet store. You can't treat their nutrition like some 5-minute daily chore. To keep them alive and actually thriving, you have to step back and become the manager of a biological food web. Simply put, you have to cultivate the environment long before you ever try to care for the fish itself.
All right, so here is your actionable roadmap for success. Step 1, establish natural prey. Tank age and biological diversity are huge here.
You absolutely need a mature refugium or a really well-established live rock system that's naturally pumping out copepods before the fish ever goes in the water. Step 2. When natural prey just isn't cutting it, you've got to target feed. That means actively pouring in live cultured copepods or live brine shrimp to artificially boost the tank's population. And finally, step 3. Train them gradually to frozen foods. Now, warning, this takes incredible patience. Think about it. You're trying to convince a predator hardwired for living, moving prey to suddenly eat something completely dead. You have to use frozen foods that mimic the exact size and movement of what they hunt naturally. And you only want to try this when the fish is already stable and comfortable in your tank.
So the crucial point is really how you manage all this on a day-to-day basis. You want to prioritize live or cultured microfoods. Copepods are definitely going to be your absolute best friend here. Next, feed small amounts, but do it frequently. Remember, they are continuous grazers. They really struggle to digest one massive meal all at once. Also, reduce competition by being super picky about their tank mates so your mandarin actually gets a chance to eat. Train them to alternatives very gradually. Seriously, don't rush it. Oh, and I absolutely love this last point. Use feeding dishes. A lot of smart aquarists use targeted delivery. They place a specific little feeding dish right in the exact spot where the mandarin naturally hangs out and hunts. This trains the fish to return to that spot for a dense, easy meal, without having to fight the current or race a greedy clownfish to get a bite.
As the proud manager of this little ecosystem, how do you actually know if you're succeeding? Well, a healthy, happy mandarin shows a steady interest in food, and it maintains a really consistent, thick body profile. No pinched bellies, no visible spine. It should also be out there foraging continuously throughout the entire day, not just popping out of the rocks when you walk by with the food jar. Now, listen closely. If your fish is repeatedly ignoring the food you offer, or it starts looking noticeably thinner, you cannot just wait and hope for the best. You have to pivot your strategy immediately. Whether that means dumping in more live pods, removing a tank mate that's stealing their lunch, or totally rethinking how you're delivering the food.
Which brings us right to the final, absolutely essential question you have to ask yourself before bringing one of these incredible animals home. Is your tank an ecosystem, or is it just a glass box? Look, a glass box is perfectly fine for your standard pellet-munching fish. But a mandarin fish? It demands an ecosystem. It requires a mature, biologically diverse food web that actually supports its natural 24/7 grazing habits. If you can build and maintain that living ecosystem, I promise you, you'll be rewarded with one of the most magnificent, mesmerizing creatures the reef has to offer. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep observing, keep learning, and as always, let's make sure we're respecting the incredibly complex biology of the animals we keep.